Get ready, steady, and let's set those body goals. The Healthfix with Mo, a body and mind journey towards a healthier you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Healthfix with Mo. Today, we've got a different type of guest, man. This man is a multifaceted human being. He goes by the name of Uncle Muscle. Yeah, so this man went from being studying solar energy, working in the solar energy
space,
energy space, and then he converted into the health and fitness space. So that's an interesting story. He'll tell you more about that before we get into the topic of today, which is the different ways you can achieve your body goals, like different methods, from cardiovascular to strength training to HIIT. We'll explain all of those during the show. But let the man introduce himself. Sfiso Uncle Muscle. How you doing, my brother?
Thanks yourself, Mo. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, just a brief introduction to who I am. Sfiso Uncle, 31 years old. As Mo mentioned, currently in the solar energy space. I work as a draftsman / consultant, business consultant in that space. And with the current shift moving more towards a passion of mine, which I've been involved in the health and fitness space for pretty much over a decade now. And essentially just trying to move into that space and help people reach the goals that they want to reach in terms of how they look and how they feel about themselves at that.
It's a beautiful industry, isn't it?
It really is. And growing at that.
Just changing lives.
Daily.
Yeah. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about the different methods people can adopt to achieve their body goals, because body goals are different, right? Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to gain weight. Some people want to gain muscle. Some people do it for health. Some people do it for aesthetics.
Sure.
And we're going to talk through all of those methods. Like, you and I are just going to have a discussion about that. Let's talk about your history with health and fitness, right? When you started this journey, what was the main goal?
Funny enough, when I first got into the gym was, it was end of matric. We're going on vac. Everyone wants to look good on the beach. And so you hit the gym, you want to impress the ladies out there. And obviously, I did gain some muscle. When you get down to vac, I like the attention that I was getting, and I was hooked from then. So I never really looked back. And I think, as the years went on, I just started learning more and more about it, learning more about nutrition, learning more different training methods. And I've never looked back ever since.
So it was just for the ladies. You were a ladies' man, though.
I think that's what the biggest motivator for all men essentially is. You want the attraction from the opposite sex.
And has your goal changed from then? Has it become more about health now, or is it still the same?
It's definitely changed. At one point it was always just to be bigger. Then the next phase was just to be healthier, much quicker. And now it just goes into finer details. Want to be more mobile, want to be more, you want to be stronger. You obviously just maintain the body that I've built over the years at that.
So just improve the quality of life.
That's
right?
exactly it.
Yeah. All right, let's jump right into it, man. So I've listed down the different types of training methods. So I'm just going to shoot.
Sure.
So we're going to start with strength training, right?
Sure.
Which is the most conventional one. So the first thing you see when you go into a gym is somebody at the squat rack, somebody at the bench press, or somebody doing arm curls, right?
Yep.
And that's the picture or the perception most people have about the gym particularly, and maybe health and fitness. Right? When you talk about health and fitness, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Definitely.
Take us through your definition, how you would define strength training, and why somebody should do it, or why they would want to do it. Yeah,
definitely. Looking at my perception of it, I do take it in phases where essentially, I'll go maybe 2-3 weeks of, your heavy lifting, and then switch it up and move more to your sort of low intensity, higher reps, weight training. Just essentially, you can't always just be out there banging heavy weights all the time. Essentially, your joints need to recover. It's all about, recovery and just giving everything, sort of give and take, taking everything in little steps at that. And, the benefits of that strength training, more muscle mass also adds on to, your bone strength, heart health, fighting off diseases at that. So it's, those are the essential benefits of it. It's also just about knowing what routine you're doing at that. You can't really just go in there and say, okay, I'm just going to bench, I'm just going to squat and, stick to that. It's also about just putting the body through different stresses that will essentially always just be testing the body out, not getting used to those essential movements at that.
Yeah.
And that's where it also just points out to, just that recovery of those muscles, of the tendons and joints at that.
Yeah. So how I've been practicing strength training or with my clients as well is that, well, when I was still new in the industry, I'd just get my clients into the gym and ask them to do weights. You know what I mean? And until one of them got injured, you're like, oh shit, I need to rethink this thing, So what I've learned to do is that, and we're going to go into this a little bit later on, is the introduction to training. If your client hasn't trained, or if somebody hasn't trained before, we start with body weight, just to get the form right and to get the feel right of how it's going to feel when you start doing the free weights. You know what I mean? So just to avoid that injury, know. So we've talked about the benefits, and then we've talked about what it does to you. But so let's talk about the performance, right? Because strength training is heavily based on the performance, right? Whether you're doing it for your own personal reasons or whether you're doing it for athletic purposes. So let's talk about your performance and how you evaluate that for yourself. If you're somebody new in the gym, how do you evaluate it? Because obviously there needs to be a program that needs to be put in place. Whether you see that program on YouTube, it's a generic one, or you had somebody put that program together for you.
Correct.
So let's talk about that, the performance, because obviously there are things like rest breaks that you take between sets, and the volume of training.
Sure.
So let's dive into that quickly.
Yeah, just picking up from what you started out with in terms of obviously starting out with your body weight exercises, just getting the body used to lifting. I mean, it goes back to what I said in terms of, your joints and your joints and ligaments getting used to the movements before you actually move on to the heavy stuff. This is something that I've learned, through trial and error, where, you're just going and you're lifting heavy the whole time. Your body is feeling sore. You think that is the right way. And then eventually you get injured at that, because obviously you're just putting your body through that high stress and with no recovery at it. Whereas, it has to be a calculated method where you start off at a pretty much doable intensity and just ramp it up as you go. Let the body sort of adjust, and then as it adjusts to that stresses that you put on through it through workouts, then you intensify at that. So, that's the best method to pretty much start out with a sort of circuit body weight training. This is now talking on a person who's never really worked out. Start with your simple workout. Start with push-ups, do body weight squats, move on to lunges, do sit-ups, and that should take about 30 minutes. And you do that for about 3 times a week. Start out on that, and then once you feel like your body is using, you're not really feeling as sore from that, you're not feeling as injured, then you move it up into, when you're ready, into sort of putting in weights. And it's always good. I know with a lot of guys, we let our egos come to us. You want everyone not to see you lifting all those heavy weights, but there's nothing wrong with starting out, benching 20 kgs and ramping it up as that. Your body will even thank you after that. Whereas you're not really injured, you can recover much quicker for the next session at that. So everything in moderation, and just add on as you go along the way at that.
Yeah. Just to touch on what you said, so I always say form over ego. So exactly. Most people in the gym they get in there with their ego. And that's really, really dangerous, and that's how people get injured, right? Because you're gonna want to lift this heavyweight. Firstly, you don't have the form to do that, to lift that heavyweight, right? And that might be catastrophic. That that would ruin you for the rest of your life. You know, so I like what you said right there about your ego. And let's talk about you talked about circuit training, right? Which obviously means a combination of different exercises, right, that target different body parts. Take us more into that circuit training, and what are the benefits of that training specifically?
Yeah. So with circuit training, as I mentioned, it's bunching over, let's say, 5 exercises into one single set at that. So yeah, you're moving, as I said, push-ups, squats, lunges, etc. And the benefits of that, essentially, well, the first one is it's very time efficient. You can do a body weight circuit in 30 minutes, as opposed to an hour and a half session at the gym at that. Another great thing about it is not only are you doing sort of your strength training, but it also has that cardiovascular benefit to it at that. And it also has that benefit of essentially working you're using your body essentially as a piece of equipment. You're learning how your body functions. You're learning about your mobility, where you're sort of what your sort of peak sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Your sort of peak threshold is at what you can push yourself at. So that's a sort of a great one to get started with, learning how to use your body as a piece of equipment before you actually move on to your conventional training on just weights at that.
Do you think so? This is the biggest question right now, right? Strength gains with heavy weights versus strength gains with light weights. Do you think you can achieve the same amount of gains aesthetically with heavy weights as you can with light weights? And I'm going to tell you my opinion after you talk about it as well.
In terms of strength, I think you'll definitely fall short on that. But in terms of actual size definition, I mean, you'll see your professional bodybuilders, outside, let's say, closer to competition, guys will be doing shoulder presses with like a 5-10 kg at higher reps at that. So it's all about using the different training methods at it. So higher volume, you can still gain some size, some strength can go away at that. And I think it's essentially learning to find that balance. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's about finding that balance between, switching up between your heavy lifting and then switching over to your higher rep lifting at that. So yeah, it's each has its own benefits at that, but you'll definitely see quite an improvement on that side.
Yeah. So I've done an experiment with myself because as you grow in the industry, you just try different things just to see how the results are. So last year, well, BC, before COVID, I was doing really, really heavy lifting. And obviously during COVID, I couldn't go into the gym, right? And then the weights got lighter. I found that when I started training with lower weights, yes, I was stronger, but my muscles couldn't endure the amount of reps I was doing during lockdown. You know what I mean? So yes, the different benefits, you will get stronger in the gym. That is guaranteed, But I just want people to know that you can achieve the same body weight goals aesthetically with lighter weights, higher reps, but your muscles will be able, so your muscle endurance will go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. Because I went from, dude, my muscle endurance. I'm not so sure about my strength right now because I haven't done real strength training in like a year and a half. But we go back to the ego. The moment I get back in the gym, will I want to go back to doing what I did, like what I want to do, go do 140 bench press for 5 reps, because that's where I ended, But yeah, so that's my personal experience of it. So because right now I'm really, really into home training, circuit training, because I've got a piece of equipment with my boy. We just go at it, man. And the results are, like, my body hasn't changed much from the strength training that I was doing and the the training that I'm doing right now. So let's go into, I know a lot of people hate this. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I've also realized that it's finding the right way to do it for you. This one is very personal, right? We're going to talk about cardiovascular training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in the past, we only associated cardiovascular training with running on the treadmill, or whether it's on the treadmill or whether it's on the road, or cycling. You know, both of which I really don't like much. You know, cycling, I can tolerate, but the running, I hate. You know, so let's talk about the cardiovascular training and how to combine it with your strength training too, because I think that's how you maximize on strength training. Yeah, when you can put the two together, and that would really shoot up your goals as well, really quickly. But let's talk about cardiovascular training on its own, and then later on how to combine it with the strength training.
Yeah, look, you know, when it comes to cardio, you know, especially for guys, the first thing that guys are going to tell you is you're going to lose your gains, you know, when you do cardio. But something that people never...
Which is bullshit.
Yeah, which is bullshit, definitely. And something that people never take into account is your heart is a muscle as well. And that's where cardiovascular pushes at that, and you can only essentially push as far as your heart can go at that. So there's definitely the benefit of adding that or adding cardio into your routine. And I think, as you mentioned, you know, it's definitely about finding the right sort of way that goes. So there's high intensity cardio. So you do your Tabata sprints, which is you essentially just sprint, go on a bike, sprint for 20 seconds, go 10 seconds. And I think that's a great method. I mean, you look at your 100-meter guys, you know, those guys are jacked as hell. And that's pretty much just from your intensity, your intensive bursts of energy at that. So I think with HIIT, that's a perfect one to sort of for muscle retention. I mean, you know, I've been reading studies where it can actually even benefit, add on some in terms of your muscle size, muscle mass, and also prevent loss at that. So, you know, you don't want to really, you know, a little pushback from HIIT is you don't want to really do it too often as well, because like with weight training, it's, you know, your body does need to recover. It does put a bit of a strain on the body at that. And then, you know, when you look at your low intensity steady cardio, that's more, you know, your jogging, walking on the treadmill, then that you can add on more sort of endurance, just overall fitness at that. And I think, you know, with the benefit of that is that people never really look into it. It also helps with sort of when you're feeling sore to sort of loosen up the body, and also benefit obviously when you're warming up before a gym session at that. So I think, you know, a perfect method that I like doing is essentially, you know, you HIIT cardio, you'll do maybe your 2-3 sessions a week at that. I mean, just 10 minutes of it. That's a great thing about it, is it's also time saving. At that you only need about 10 minutes of it. Whereas with your low intensity steady cardio, you know, you'll need about 30 minutes, 20 minutes at that for it to be sort of effective at that.
Talk us through some of your favorite cardio methods. Because obviously they're different kinds.
Yeah.
Mine, I do soccer. I do soccer twice a week.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really high intensity.
Yeah.
Short sprints, change of direction, which is your agility, you know, flexibility, because you're always stretching, you know, and sprints. It's just, I find it works really well for me.
Yeah.
So talk us through some of your favorite.
So I think my most favorite one would be the stationary bike. As I mentioned, Tabata sprints, where, I mean, you put the bike on like 1 or 2 intensity, very low intensity, 20 seconds sprint, 10 seconds rest. I mean, you can start with 5 minutes, but yeah, ideally you want to be pushing it to 10 minutes where you really feel that burn. And and then a second one that I've really started to get into now that's becoming quite popular is your boxing training. She's boxing training. If you really want a full body burn, I mean, she's from head to toe. You get a heavy bag, even shadow boxing, and I mean, do 5 rounds, 3-minute rounds with a minute break. CrossFit would definitely be the sort of best one I would suggest for someone who wants to get into weights. Let's say you've done now your body weight stuff and you really want to get into weights. I think CrossFit, I know a lot of guys are like, yeah, CrossFit, you get injured, just injury, there's no form. But I think in terms of for on a beginner side, if you want to get into that, it's also fun. There's a lot of people around you to encourage you at that. That class setting also just, just helps push you at that. So I definitely think CrossFit would be one to add into your routine if you really want to sort of, you're looking for weight loss sort of routine. In terms of aesthetics, I know obviously, when you look at your pros, those guys are jacked, but you're not really going to see pretty much the same sort of aesthetics in terms of, bigger biceps. That's more focused more on like your sort of cardiovascular, your health and strength side of things. But it's always good to throw those exercises in.
It's lovely for functionality. It's very, very functional. The training you get from CrossFit. And I do that as cardio as well. But some of those guys are really jacked. That's how some of the guys I see at that gym that are doing CrossFit, they're really, really jacked. So when you compare CrossFit to the boxing training, because CrossFit is a full body workout, which one would you say is the beast?
Jeez. Look, under my opinion, because I've been doing boxing now for about 8 months now, and honestly, there's no workout like fighting, or just throwing hands, hitting the bag. Hitting the pads. It's on that scale. It's quite a burner. But once you're throwing in weights as well. That's where CrossFit also, just becomes that much more intensive, because now you're lifting these weights at a certain time, then you're moving to the next weight. So it's a bit tough to sort of decide which one would really ideally burn more calories on that end. I think it's different body types would react differently to each sort of exercise at that. So it's a bit of a tough one to put up against each other.
It is, right? Because I also used to do a lot of Muay Thai, which is really, really intense as well. Because I think the similarities with boxing are actually pretty much the same. So and let's talk about, I think, which is very important, overtraining. Right? I'm going to bring in a professor of physiology later on in the series to talk about how overtraining actually weakens your immune system, right? And that's very, very detrimental to your overall health, because I have had some people who don't want to stop training, one, and then two, they don't want to rest. They don't want to sleep. You know what I mean? I don't know how they do it, because I always want to sleep. I just came from the gym. I could sleep right now. So I don't know. Let's talk about the importance of those two areas. One, the recovery, and two, the overtraining. Do you have any personal experiences of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's where when I mentioned earlier in terms of where I go into a sort of 4-week cycle where, I go heavy, and then I have what I call a rest week where, I go light with pretty much body weight, do more functional stuff. And then after that week, I'll go back into sort of, your conventional heavyweights. And, before I got into sort of this cycle, where you're walking around, your back's hurting. And, what you mentioned where people say they can't sleep, it's a true thing where, your body is so banged up that you can't, you've got insomnia that's creeping in. And, what I found is, after that sort of rest week, you actually come back, you're much stronger. You can push harder. And just your mental states also, you're more alert in terms of, your form, your intensity that you're putting out at that. So it definitely, rest, people always undervalue how important rest is when you're working out, but it's definitely a need.
Because that is when the body actually starts making progress. Right?
Exactly.
When you're in the rest mode, it's not in the gym,
Yeah.
right? It's usually in the kitchen
Yeah.
and in your rest. Like
Exactly.
your rest patterns need to be on point when you really want to get the results that you're gunning for.
Exactly.
Your rest should be top priority.
Exactly.
And I'm going to emphasize this. I talk about rest every time on this podcast because
Yeah.
I really want to emphasize this because people get eager,
Yeah.
you know, and they want to get results quickly.
Yeah.
And honestly, the quicker you want the results, the more you should rest.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So when we talk about when we talk about the high intensity reps, right? Obviously, something different happens to your body,
Yeah.
and the results that you get are quicker,
Yeah.
right? This is how you achieve. This is how you gain muscle.
Yeah.
These are like fat burning muscle builders.
Yeah.
You know, how would you adapt that into a program that you design for a client? Let's say he or she comes through and they say, listen, yeah, we've lost the weight.
No.
That's cool. I love it. Now I want to build some muscle.
No.
Right? Because obviously when the program has phases,
Yeah.
right? Where you get this part out of the way,
Yeah.
and it becomes monotonous.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to go into a different phase, which
Yeah.
challenges the person or you
No.
in a different way.
No.
So how do you go about that? So how do you combine the different methods of training that we just spoke about?
Yeah. So obviously the first phase is your sort of body weight stuff. Once that's done, and you now obviously, as you mentioned, the person's lost that fat, let's say, and they want to essentially now gain muscle at that. Something that I've always believed that is essentially, more muscle. It's not something I just believe in, something that, I've sort of just researched and, found in my studies is the higher your muscle gain, the more it's called your higher metabolic rate. So the rate at which your body burns fat. Now, obviously, adding more muscle into the equation. So, then you move into your weight training, where you then go into sort of splits, where you're going to split upper body, chest, back. Then your leg training at that, and then that's where we go back into your HIIT training as well, because like I mentioned, the heart's also a muscle that needs to be worked out at that, and mixing these three sort of workout routines into each other will definitely help in terms of cutting down on that fat stack. So. So I lost my train of thought now. So going back to that, so essentially you want to go into those phases where essentially it's fat, it's your muscle, your weight training is not substitute, but also supplemented by your cardio at that. So, and that's where you mix it up between your HIIT and your low intensity cardio. And it's also just about finding the right sort of split for all those training sessions at that.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess with that being said, you just want to create a holistic version of your health. You know what I mean? Because now you are strong.
Yeah.
Now you are fit,
Correct.
cardiovascularly also, and you are functional.
Yeah.
So which means you're mobile and you're flexible.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to talk about the last part about our training, which is the yoga part.
Yeah.
Very underestimated, very undervalued.
Definitely.
Will whoop your ass.
Yeah.
So, and especially the people who want to get muscle gains don't think that yoga is important.
Yeah.
And the flexibility gains you get from yoga and Pilates are unbelievable.
Definitely.
And also, that being said, the benefit you get when you do all these other training is really, really, really great after if you combine yoga with everything that you do, because the flexibility is really, really important.
And also just on the recovery side of things, it really helps. That's one thing that, especially on men's side, we don't stretch enough. It's another thing that I've learned through trial and error. And I mean, before you work out, it will definitely serve you help your performance, help prevent injuries if you start off with sort of dynamic stretches, so arm circles, swinging your legs, doing some twists. And then afterwards, after your session, then you're doing sort of your static stuff, so holding the poses for longer to sort of just cool down the muscle at that. And I think, ever since I've started stretching, I've minimized my risk for injuries. And it's definitely something that I can really recommend for people.
I've been to a few yoga classes, mate.
Yeah, you're sweet.
Oh, I couldn't believe it, dude. The first time I did yoga, I went there with an ego. I was like, no, it's just yoga, it's just stretching. Did I not see flames?
No.
I saw real flames, mate. So it was insane. So when it comes to also stretching, right? There's dynamic stretches and there's the static ones, right? Where do you apply each and where?
Yeah. So definitely your dynamic stretching would be more preferred before training, because I mean when you're training you're definitely pulling your muscles, you're elongating them, so you don't want to put on that stress way before you lift it. So essentially, like I mentioned, it's just your arm swings, leg kicks, some twists, maybe just to loosen up the muscle. And then your static stretching, then that's sort of done. Yeah, that's done post-workout, where essentially you're cooling off the muscle. You're holding the poses for 30 seconds, 30 seconds at that, just to add a bit of recovery. And as mentioned, that's going to definitely help with your recovery. It's going to help with just cooling down that muscle.
And also just to define that further, the dynamic stretches that you really want to start with that to improve your performance.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Because you can't do static stretches before a workout. Because it really just warms up the muscle before the actual exercise.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a mistake that I see a lot in the gym, where people do static exercise, static stretches before lifting heavy. It's really, really dangerous, because obviously you're not planning, you're not warming up the muscle enough for you to be able to do the type of training that you want.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So let's talk about home training versus gym training.
Yeah.
Right? Because since COVID started, a lot of people have converted to start to working out at home, and most people that I know haven't gone back to the gym, even though gyms are open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they've actually found that the results are better. And we spoke about this earlier, is that because the gym, whether you have a trainer or not, could be really, really intimidating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also your ego plays a role as well.
Definitely,
you know? Let's talk about your personal preference. Do you prefer?
Look, I've always been a sort of, just love hitting gym, hitting the heavy weights. But obviously, like you mentioned, when COVID hit, when we had that, when we were at level 5, what I found was when I was doing homework, because something that I always struggled with was my legs. I struggled to get my legs to go. And funny enough, I found that doing home workouts, I started seeing some crazy gains on the leg side. And I think this was also done due to the fact that, I was pretty much touching the legs 3 times a week then, because it was doing full body at that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at that. So, it all goes back to finding that perfect volume at what you're doing, how many reps you're doing. Also focusing on the form, because now obviously without weights, now you have to make the sort of movements more intense by sort of slowing down the movements, which then obviously triggers those little fibers inside your body at that. So look, I'm definitely not gonna cut the sort of body weight home workouts out at that. It's definitely good to add both of them together. And I'm now a believer in that. You can make as much, well, not as much, but it's pretty much as much as you can when as opposed to going to the gym and just lifting heavy all the time.
So I've also realized the same. So I've gone back to the gym as well, and I still do my home training, my bodyweight training. But the results that I've got, like my performances in the gym, have shot up really good. I mean, it was amazing because I've discovered new things about myself. We're talking about legs, right? For me, it was arms. I never used to isolate arms on their own, right? Until I started training at home, where I was like, okay, this is a focus area there. Because I really thought if I'm in the gym, it's really boring just to do arms on their own. And until I was at home, I was like, okay, this is an area, a focus area, like an area to focus on. And I just started doing it. I just bought myself some dumbbells, and you know, I just it's insane, right? So
you start feeling that different burn when you start really focusing on that muscle.
Yeah. So you wouldn't bash either.
Yeah.
Really. Would you have any tips on home training? Because it also gets tough to train at home. Because I mean, everything is, your fridge is there, your couch is there, the TV is there, your bed is right upstairs or in the next room. Yeah. And it becomes really tough sometimes to get your mind into the method, especially now because it's winter. Yeah. Right. So how do you get yourself into that mindset, or how would you get someone else into that mindset? Because we already used to it. We already want to feel like bro. You know, probably an addiction. If you want to call it that.
Exactly.
But we really want to feel that bro. But what would you say to somebody who, again, who's just starting out, right, or who's thinking of starting this training, right? Yeah. And we've already taken them through the different methods of training. Right? They could start running. Yeah. They could do HIIT. They could do CrossFit. They could do home training, or they could join a gym. Right? How do you get those people into the right mindset to start their journey?
Yeah. I think it all goes back to what I mean, what I said in terms of, you know, moderation. Start off with something simple. It's just, you just have to start it. So, I mean, like I mentioned, start with the basic stuff, your push-ups, your squats, and you know, and as that gets easier, then you start ramping it up. In terms of what you said of, you know, with the distractions and how do you actually get into sort of pushing yourself at that? I mean, there were so many times during that lockdown where, you know, there were days that I had where I was like, Netflix, I'm just gonna skip at that. Yeah. But I mean, you know, once, I know it's a bad way to look at it, but when you say you can reward yourself in terms of, then I can watch TV, then you know, once you start thinking of it that way, that can also sort of edit that. But another method that I've you know, I always say to my friends is take a scoop of pre-workout and see if you can chill after that. Then you will have the motivation to get into it. That's a good one. Then you will have your motivation. If you can chill after you've taken that scoop of pre-workout,
then you're a boss.
Then you're a boss. Yeah.
Like you are a boss and chill.
Yeah.
You can chill after a scoop of pre-workout.
Yeah.
No. All right. Okay, we're about to close this off now. Let's talk about favorite exercise.
Definitely a deadlift.
Yeah. Okay, why?
I think I love what the deadlift is. Just you feel it everywhere, man. You'll feel your traps, your back, your legs. They just say if you can do one exercise for the rest of your life, I'll definitely take the deadlift over anything, man.
It's a really good compound. Worst exercise and why?
Jeez, there's so many. Worst one would be,
I'll tell you mine right now, and I've said this before, is a burpee.
Oh yeah.
Burpees. I do them because it's necessary, but fuck, I hate them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's between burpees and side bends. Just side bends just always get me, man. Yeah. Always feels like my side's gonna rip.
Right? Okay. Favorite music to train to?
I'm big on my techno. So yeah, some techno, man. Just that hard bass, just tune in, zone out, and just cancel everything around me. So yeah.
Specific track that you like to play?
There's this track called "Mirror Me" by Marcio Plex. That's essentially I start my workout with that. That's like when I'm warming up, I listen to that track and it just tunes me in. So yeah. That's my go-to track.
There's a boy of mine who trains to R&B.
Oh, jeez.
which I find really, really weird.
Yeah.
Hey man, if it works for him, it works for him. So I'm a hip hop guy.
Yeah.
I discover most music while I'm training.
Yeah.
Because I'll just go into YouTube and YouTube just makes a playlist for me.
Yeah.
And I just like discover new hip hop. I love discovering new hip hop.
Yeah, while you train. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Where do people find you on the socials, mate? They want to follow you. They want to get some tips from you.
Yeah, sure. On Instagram, it's Sfiso, but it's S_Y_F_O. Also, at Uncle Muscles, it should pop up at that. And
so you're Mr. Muscles' brother.
No, that is brother. Yeah, might be his older brother.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so why Uncle Muscle?
So yeah, so how that came about. So I've got 3 nieces, and
okay.
the oldest one, who's 4 years old now. She just started saying like, yeah, my uncle's got muscle, and she started calling me Uncle Muscles, and yeah, I'm just stuck with all 3 of them, and yeah, I mean, geez. It's a perfect nickname that came up, and yeah, taking it from there.
Yeah, man. So what do you have to look forward to from you in the industry, man? Because you were talking about some pretty cool stuff earlier on.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning to you earlier, with me is now sort of looking to get more into the space. We are in the process of finalizing a sort of your personal training app. It will be we're a few months out from dropping it. But yeah, we'll share more details as it comes closer into that. And and I'm looking forward to sort of just diving further into helping people become, their stronger, best versions of themselves.
Hey man, thank you for coming through. Thank you for dropping some knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great podcast. I enjoyed myself. Though.
Yeah,
so if you're listening to this, you're listening to it on yourmedia.co.za. Our podcasts are available on Spotify and iTunes, where you can get a different variety of podcasts from Sex with Tracy and Plant Power with Mawe too. And the show goes on with Noni, Transcript with Tiamo. So we are yourmedia_ZA on Instagram. Follow us on that. And this is the Healthfix with Mo. Thank you for listening and join us again next week where we can have another exciting guest. Peace out.